Welcome to Is Franchising Right for You? With your host, Rick Morgin. Through each episode, we'll demystify preconceived notions about franchising, both entrepreneurs franchising and those buying a franchise. You can find this show on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Now here's the host of Is Franchising Right for You? Rick Morgin.
Good afternoon, Seth.
Hey, good afternoon, Rick.
Yeah. It's you're on the East Coast now, so it's afternoon instead of Central. But
It is, yeah. I'm good to be back on the East Coast.
well, I am honored and privileged to have my friend, a fellow consultant, the perennial top producer within our organization as a guest. I want to thank you for your time. And this is really just an opportunity for people who are listening to learn about franchising through the telling of stories. So I've had franchisors on, your friends, and Rob and Missy will be on next week. I've had people from finance, but you're the first consultant.
All right, well, I'm honored, and thank you for having me. Really, truly an honor.
But you have a wonderful story to tell, and it's really, I want you to express the connection to the franchise industry, because you were a doctor of chiropractic care. You know, you were educated, earned that degree, developed a practice, your own business, and then you got transferred into franchising and turned that into this great success too. So it's
been an interesting ride, and I'm probably against my parents' better judgment with the spending of their money and my education, but I think everything worked out okay. But yeah, I did start my career as a chiropractor and had developed a spine and sports medicine facility. But I started as a traditional chiropractor with an office on the corner. And I had read a book early in my career that was recommended. Many people might be familiar with it. It's an underground bestseller business book called The E-Myth Revisited. The author, Michael Gerber. And the E-Myth is the entrepreneur myth. And that is that if someone understands the technical work of a business, that means they understand a business that does that technical work. So if a plumber jumps ship from a plumbing company, that automatically grants them the opportunity and understanding of how to run a plumbing business, and nothing's further from the truth. Because you go from a technician to now your sales, marketing, operations, finance. So Michael talked about the purpose of a business is to serve your life, not your life serve your business. And in order for your business to serve your life, it can't be dependent upon you, because if the business is dependent upon you, you don't really have a business, you have a job, and it's the worst job in the world because you're working for a maniac. And so he said, the greatest perspective you could have about the business is pretend that it was one of 1,000 locations just like it, like a McDonald's. What would the first location need to look like in order for that to be the case? And, you know, for me, I was a chiropractor. I was going room to room, treating patients, working 60, 70, 80 hours a week, not making it out with friends, not showing up for family functions, showing up late, ended up in a divorce. I mean, you know, I had the trappings of success, but I didn't feel successful because the business owned me. I didn't own it. Like most providers, you are the business. I was the physician. And reading Michael's book was like a sledgehammer on the side of my head, because he said, in order for you to have a business, it can't be dependent upon you. And what do you need to do to make a business not dependent upon you? But I was the business. But when I got it, I went to work on the practice, not in the practice. I started to bring in other providers to deliver services so that I didn't need to be going room to room, and began to focus and working on the business of delivering healthcare rather than the delivery of healthcare, which was a huge distinction, because it didn't have to be about me treating patients. It had to be about me providing what I wanted to, which is giving my patients a consistent, predictable, and reproducible experience, giving my team the same, and as well as myself. So I took a garden variety chiropractic practice, and within 36 months transformed it into a healthcare enterprise. We went from $500,000 in revenue to $3.5 million in revenue in those 36 months. And I went from treating patients going room to room to barely spending any time in the clinic because I had all of the physicians in place. I was able to work on my vision, which was to have multiple specialties under one roof, treating patients under one roof, giving them a one-stop shop for spine and sports medicine. I never would have been able to do that if I was busy going room to room treating patients. What I really learned, Rick, was that my passion was business. It wasn't the delivery of healthcare. As much as I liked my patients, enjoyed treating patients, and was a good provider, my real passion and my real skill was in building the business. And what I did, I built the business and I wound up selling it to physicians internally. So I created an exit strategy for myself where typically doctors, their business is worth nothing. It's all furniture, fixtures, and equipment. It's all goodwill. Because I built a business that wasn't dependent upon me, I had an asset that I was able to sell internally to providers. And after I did that, I kept getting approached by other providers in the industry, wondering how I did what I did. And I would share with them, what I had learned, and was doing this regularly, helping people understand the point of view they needed to have about running practice. And then I met Michael Gerber. I was at a conference and I'm like, oh my God, your book changed my life. And he's like, how so? And I shared with him what it did. And I told him that I was sharing his principles with others. And he said, well, how much are they paying you for that sharing? And I said, nothing. And he said, well, that's a shitty business model, pardon my French. That was another sledgehammer for me. I didn't realize that I was sharing very valuable information. So Michael offered me the opportunity to go out to California where he was to learn about what his consultancy did in helping businesses apply the principles in that book that I had, and ended up becoming a consultant as an independent contractor for Michael's organization, working with initially other healthcare practices, businesses in healthcare. Inevitably, I wound up working with franchise brands in healthcare and then outside of healthcare. This was a natural progression because my skill set, again, wasn't the clinical skills. It was my business aptitude that I had developed through the book and my practice. And I was working with brands that wanted me to go out and find out why some of the locations they had were struggling or failing. So they saw the operational expertise that I could bring to them in uncovering what was happening. And I would go out and I would meet very smart, accomplished people, a great brand. And I kept seeing this mismatch. These people did not know things they should have known. Had they known, they would have made a different decision. They didn't know what they didn't know. Just because you like pizza, Rick, doesn't mean you buy a Pizza Hut. There's a lot more you need to know. Sometimes it's okay just being a consumer. You don't need to own the business. So I got tired of feeling like I was this lifeguard rescuing drowning victims that were already underwater. And I was running in and out trying to save them, and it was too late. And I decided it made more sense to go upstream to see who was throwing them in the first place and prevent that from happening. When I came across our cottage industry that I didn't even know existed, that there was an opportunity for me to help and work with people in navigating franchising and determining if it is the right thing for them to do in the first place, because franchising is not for everybody. But if it is for them, they better make sure that they know the things that they should know and be looking at the right businesses that would make sense for them to look at, because it checks the boxes that they would need to have checked. They just don't even know what those boxes are. So here I am 10 years later of having started this. I can't believe it. And I wouldn't have changed anything. I went through all of that schooling, all that experience, but I wouldn't be where I am had I not done that. So there are no regrets. Everything happened for a reason. And I think, God bless my dad, rest his soul. I think he'd be really proud to see what I did with what I started with, the money that he invested in my education and what I turned it into. And I know that my mom's very proud and happy. And I'm doing better than I was as a physician with 4,500 square feet and 30 employees in helping people navigate the franchise space and getting them into business and providing them the American dream. What's better than that?
No, that really isn't anything better than that. What I've heard is that you've taken business lessons learned and taken it to the front end of life-changing decisions to help them figure it out. Because many of the, correct me if I'm wrong, but many of the clinics that you visited to try to correct, maybe they didn't do the right research, right?
They just didn't even know how to properly evaluate the opportunities they were looking at. They didn't know things they should have known. Had they known, the decision-making would have been very different. They had no business looking at the types of businesses they were looking at for a variety of reasons that they didn't even know they needed to know.
Yeah, it's just like, this is the new shiny stone, let me go do it, without really understanding what you're getting into and how to manage and grow the business. Sounds like also you took the lessons you learned from developing your healthcare business by creating this great support team into your consulting practice as you do now within the franchise industry. And I like the way you put it, the cottage industry. It is a small world, right?
Yeah. I mean, many people don't even know this industry even exists. And a lot of the people that are doing it, are doing it in their underwear at their kitchen counter, right? The cliche. The barrier to entry is really low for this industry. It doesn't require a lot for people to get into it, but not a lot remain because there is so much to learn. I tell people I'm a 10-year overnight success. This didn't happen overnight. This was 10 years of learning, and there's so much involved in helping people make an extremely important decision and investment. It's probably the biggest investment they're ever going to make other than their home, and probably even more. And that business will pay for their homes, pay for their kids' education. It will provide them a lifestyle. And probably the biggest decision they'll make other than who they're sharing their bed with at night. So I don't take that lightly, and neither should they. This is a tremendous investment, but the upside is significant. It really can change people's lives and, remove the shackles of corporate America from them. If they want to get out of the rat race, franchising can do it for them. If they want to invest in franchising as a diversification strategy, they can do that too. They don't need to leave their job. There are different types of businesses they need to be looking at if they want to continue with employment, like owning a franchise versus spending full time in it. And that's what I find is people were spending months, if not years, looking at the wrong business models because they just didn't know that there were things they should have that could have saved them a lot of time, effort, and energy.
A couple of things that have come out of our conversation. One is, and hopefully you agree, when I do a seminar, and it could be at one of our expos or a different seminar, one of the first things I say is, if you take away anything from this seminar, is work with a consultant. Have somebody that can coach you and guide you and create that right match and help educate you.
I mean, there's no cost for this service. Why wouldn't somebody want to take advantage of that? And there's no impact on the investment. It's extremely valuable. I mean, it's having a tour guide take you through a garden that you've never been in before. And here's the poison ivy that you need to avoid. Yes, that flower is edible. That one's not. I mean, you wouldn't know. And there are significant pitfalls that you can get into. I mean, a big waste of time, but could you imagine getting into the wrong business, putting all that money into it, rolling over your retirement account, mortgaging your home, taking your life savings and putting it into the wrong business? I mean, that could be completely devastating. So I truly feel that what we're doing as a profession is changing lives. It's giving people the opportunity for freedom, to be in control of their own destiny, to create wealth, and opportunity for their family. It's extremely exciting. Again, it's life-changing for the people that we work with.
It is. And working with a consultant, it's research, get over the fear, be in a position to make that decision. And you really can't do that on your own. When you first connect with a candidate, do you lay out what to expect, what they expect from you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a relationship that's extremely important. You'll be spending several months together, and expectation management's important. Number one, I can't want this more than they do, right? This is
Yeah.
their future. And if they can't put the effort and energy in for something that they want for themselves, then probably doesn't make sense for them to even begin the process, right? So I let them know that even though there's no cost for the service, my time is extremely valuable, as is their time. And the approach that we're going to take, I've developed a very algorithmic, methodical, and efficient approach to evaluating business models. And I hate to say this, dumbed it down, but I just took all of the fundamental common denominators, the qualities, characteristics, and attributes that you need to understand when looking at franchises, so that it's very organized and simple, so that they could make decisions from high level all the way down to the specifics without getting overwhelmed. I think it's daunting. If people go on the internet, there's just too much information. A lot of it is inaccurate or outdated. There's thousands of franchises. They're not all great. Even the ones that are doesn't mean it's the right fit for them.
True.
So it's just hard for them to navigate all of that by themselves. So I'm kind of a Sherpa in leading them, and I prefer to lead rather than cattle prod. But sometimes you have to. People get in their own way, their belief systems, their assumptions, their perceptions, and fear will always rear its ugly head, because it's a big decision. It's a big investment. So I think the value that I bring and you bring and the people in doing what we're doing is to simplify things for them, is to guide them, give them the information that would be important, and helping them make decisions so that they could determine if this is truly right for them or not. And I tell my candidates, not moving forward with a franchise is an acceptable outcome. They're not obligated or committed to investing in a franchise by working with me. The only thing they're committing to is following a very algorithmic, methodical, and efficient approach to looking at franchises. And doing that is going to give them the best chance of landing on the right brand, and the deck of cards will be stacked in their favor for success with it. So much greater chance of a successful outcome.
Well, that's why there's a detailed process. I mean, there is so much information to learn and absorb so that they can get to a decision. That's why there's a specific process that we have to understand what could best fit.
Yeah,
and
this is a system-oriented industry, right? Processes,
Yeah.
systems, and procedures are the cornerstone of a franchise. So I created processes, systems, and procedures for people to evaluate a franchise. If someone can't follow a system in evaluating a franchise, they probably won't follow it owning it. So I've done them a favor by putting them through the gauntlet to determine if they truly have what it takes to be a franchise owner.
A comment you made a few minutes ago about the cattle prod. I can imagine that can be effective, and I use it too, because you can kind of connect with somebody and think, all right, this person has all the attributes, all the motivation, all the skills, but as you said, they get in their own way, and you need to kind of shock them a bit to get them on track. Is that an example?
Yeah, like I said, I prefer to shepherd and lead, but sometimes we have to cattle prod. Sometimes they'll dig their heels in because they're getting in their own way, and we need to get them out of their own way. So what we're doing is it's consultative, but it's also kind of coaching. It's really about having people take a look in the mirror. Do they really have what it takes? Do they understand what they're getting into? What's preventing them from taking the next step? What's getting in their way? What's the mindset that they have? So it's educating and informing, but it's really uncovering what are the obstacles, either real or perceived, that's preventing them from doing what is in their best interest to do.
Now, I'll coach against misperceptions about preconceived ideas, and because that can be a barrier. Without engaging deeper into the process, they'll have their own notions, and that is
biases, beliefs, habits, all of it are what they come to the table with. And I talk about that early with clients, is that you have natural assumptions and perceptions, and they're not all accurate. And keeping an open mind will go a long way, because making decisions emotionally never work in our favor. And I want them to make decisions with data and logic. So the due diligence process will provide them with the data that they will need so that they can make a prudent decision and not make an emotional decision. I think people that get into a franchise without guidance are making emotional decisions, like liking pizza and getting into a pizza brand might not make sense. Owning a food concept could be the worst thing for that person, because they don't know the things that they should know about a restaurant type of business model. So the work that's done up front with our clients and understanding what it is they're looking to achieve, where they're looking to get to and by when, what are the resources they have to put in time, effort, and capital? Do they have the wherewithal, the skill sets, the gumption, the intestinal fortitude? Do they have the psyche? Are all those present? Because business ownership is not a ride in the park. There's going to be challenges like anything else. And that's why, for me, it's so important that people only look at opportunities that they have an interest in. This is not a soulmate search, I tell them. We're not looking for a needle in a haystack, but do not be agnostic either. Don't just say, I don't care what the business does as long as it makes money. Well, not likely you'll make the money if you don't have an interest in the business. So I really want to know where their passions, interests, and desires are. Where could we leverage their skill sets and strengths in a whole different arena? Because most franchises do not require that they have specific industry experience. They have to have the fundamental skill sets that would be required and transferable to that business. So they could look at opportunities that they might never have considered, because they think they need to look at what's familiar and where they've come from. And that's not true. I think 85% of the people that I put into a franchise end up in a franchise, Rick, that they never knew existed, or end up in an industry they never initially saw themselves in, because they just didn't know what they didn't know.
Well, that's true. I mean, I read a statistic or heard a statistic a while back that around 11% of franchise owners actually have industry experience.
I think having industry experience sometimes a handicap.
True.
A lot of brands would prefer you had no industry experience, because what comes along with that is the biases, beliefs, and habits, not all good ones. They have to unteach you to reteach you.
And that doesn't make a great operator who has an idea to scale, but aren't capable of, because they're working too much in the business as the plumber.
Yeah, they'll wind up doing the wrong work in the business. If they're an auto tech and go and purchase an automotive concept, they're going to wind up rolling their sleeves up, getting their hands dirty under the hood, and that's not where they need to be. Better that they knew nothing about what's under the hood and be back in the office doing what they should be doing, and allow the technicians to do the work that they should be doing.
Do you invite your clients to express what they expect from you, and to express any fear? I mean, it's got to be an open conversation, right? They can't.
I let them know up front that this is a relationship that's going to last for at least a few months, and that it's got to be a mutually good fit, and that the expectation is, if anything is not resonating or working for them, to be transparent and share it so that we can work through it. It's like any relationship. So people that are withholding information, are avoiding the tough conversations, are ghosting meetings, if they're displaying behaviors and actions that would not be consistent with a good business owner, then they've done themselves a favor by getting out of the process before they sign a franchise agreement.
That's true, and I'm sure you do a very good job. I try to do as good a job as I can to try to catch those who are evasive and ghosting and eliminate them because you're right. Time is precious.
The quicker that we can remove people like that from the process, the more time we could spend with the people who are going to be the right fit for business ownership. This is not for everybody. And I get hundreds of people that approach me every month interested in looking at franchise opportunities, and I can't work with them all. And everybody talks about you need to qualify the people who you're going to work with. And I tell them, no, you need to disqualify more than qualify. I need to get rid of more people than I'm going to keep, because I don't want to be spending time on people that are not really truly committed to what they're looking for themselves. They're tire kickers, they're curious, and just want to, dabble and explore. And that's not who my ideal client is. I want someone who truly, knows that they want to do something, and they just want to really find out if franchising can get them where they want to get to, and are very coachable, and are willing to learn and understand and put the value in the relationship and the resources that we're bringing to them and helping them with decision making.
Yeah, if they want to dabble and explore, they can go to a trade show or one of many expos.
Well, they can go on the internet. There's no shortage of information there.
True. Besides financial qualification, can you tell right away if someone's going to be a good candidate? Are there maybe 3 attributes that click?
I mean, I think fundamentally they need to have a business aptitude, right? They need to have done whatever they've done in their career, management. They need to have had the ability to hire, terminate, hold people accountable if they're going to run an organization where they're managing others. I think management skill sets are really important. They have to be organized. They have to be logical, strategic thinkers. They need to be able to follow a process. Like, I think one of the biggest determinants of someone being a good fit for franchising is the ability to stick to the recipe. I think failure in franchising for many is they think they can do it better. They pay for the playbook. Here is the recipe for success, and they want to change it. And by the way, I'd be the worst franchisee. I know the lane that I need to stay in. I would try to change the formula for Kentucky Fried Chicken. It doesn't need it, but that's my nature. I know that I could not be an owner, because I'd always be looking for better ways to do it than just following the recipe provided. So they need to have the type of mindset that they don't need to reinvent the wheel, that they can just follow the playbook, adhere to the principles provided to them, and the likelihood of a successful outcome will be much greater than them trying to reinvent the wheel.
Well, you have the principles of your very successful healthcare chiropractic business in a very methodical way of building that, which you can transfer that knowledge to your candidates. But you've also demonstrated great success in a business like ours that presents different situations every day.
Well, I think fundamentally, my why is helping people. Everything I've ever done is helping people, whether it's with their health or whether it's consulting and helping them with the business. But it was the application of the business tools and principles that I learned and applied to the practice that I applied to this business. But fundamentally, who I am and what I want for people and helping them. And again, I can't want it more than they want it. But I feel that I became successful at this, not just because I care for my clients, because I truly do and want their success for them, but I treated this like a real business, not like a hobby. I went in applying all the things that I had learned that made me successful in healthcare to this business the same way.
Well, I don't think you can treat what we do as a hobby.
I think I do treat it like a hobby, and I encourage them to do something else, because this is a extremely important endeavor that we're embarking upon here. It's a huge impact on people's lives and their future, and they better put it all in like they would for anything else. If not, go do something else.
I agree. Absolutely agree with that. I mean, somebody who's treating this as a hobby probably is not setting goals. And I'm sure you set your short and long-term goals for yourself. I wanted to ask, do you ever have candidates or clients that you've placed ever come back to you for additional resources for goals?
All the time.
people that work on the CPAs,
Yeah, because people ask me all the time, I mean, how are the people that you put into franchises doing? And I said, I wish I could have a retrospective. I don't have the time to go back and see how everybody is. I wish I could, but I can tell you empirically, many of them are coming back and purchasing additional territories, additional licenses. They're winning franchisee of the year or rookie of the year. That's what makes my heart sing when I know that they're successful at what they're doing. My tagline is that it's not just about getting people into business, it's getting the right people into the right business.
Oh, well said. Perfectly said. Do you mind if I steal that tagline?
Sure.
Well, Seth, we've talked about a lot. Is there anything else that you want to say? The floor is yours that we haven't covered.
A good amount of ground there. Any question that you would have that I didn't address?
No, I mean, I addressed everything I wanted to bring up. It was, we had this sort of impromptu conversation that we had, a few minutes of prep, but, people understand your journey, why you're doing it, how you do it through a very algorithmic, direct process. What satisfies you? I think we talked about that. I think we conveyed that.
Yeah, I'm glad. I love talking about what we do. It's my passion as well as my vocation.
It sure comes across as your passion, and candidates are very lucky to work with you. And I appreciate your time.
Appreciate
it. I just want to thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you very much for being a guest on my podcast.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
You've been tuning into Is Franchising Right for You? With your host, Rick Morgin. You can find more episodes on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Thank you for your positive reviews, comments, questions, and for sharing this show with others.